Hey, welcome back everyone. It's good to see you. So, one of the major principal things that I know it took me a while to get my head around when I was first working with data is the idea of a data type. Now, when you work with like really complex systems, but there are many different data types. But in spreadsheets, there's actually only really two primitive types. I mean, don't at me if you know there's actually a little bit more than that, but we're going to actually just base on that there actually being two primitive types, and those two primitive types are actually numbers and text. Now, it actually just doesn't get any more complex than that. All that does change within a spreadsheet is actually not only whether it's a number or whether it's a text, is actually just how it shows. So this is going to be the first video where I'm really sort of playing about with numbers. I'm going to have a look at a little bit of text as well, but on the basis actually of dates as well, because a date is actually, as we'll come to see, a number type also. So we're going to start off with this. So I've got this little spreadsheet here. I will be sharing the spreadsheet, by the way. I'm still trying to figure out the best and most secure way of actually doing that. But so keep an eye out, because once I've got it all finished, as you could see at the bottom, there's quite a few tabs there. Once I've got it all finished, I'll figure out, and I'll add a blog post. Have a look at the website, datawithduke.com, to figure out how to get it. So let's start with this. We've got a number. We'll start with 50. It's as good as any, right? But we'll just start with that. We can run calculations. We could do basic arithmetic basically on any number but by referring to the cell itself. So if I start off with an equal sign, and I'm going to click on this cell here, which is C2, and that represents the number 50, and you can see that in the top there. It says 50 is the value that is being referred to by looking at cell C2. And then if I do the multiplication symbol, which is an asterisk, and that's pretty common in pretty much every single data tool, certainly that I've ever worked with. So I do that, and I do 3, and I hit enter, and there we go. There's result. Fantastic. Basic calculation. I've got a number 50 in a cell. I'm going to refer to that cell. I'm going to multiply by 3, and it gives me the response. Nice and easy. Oh, I mentioned that there's actually two primitive data types, being numbers and text. We can convert back and forth to each other as well, and there's a couple of different ways of doing it. But the first way that I'm going to show you is with the text function. So I'm going to name text. That's the function itself. I press the equal sign and I type the word text, and you see this little green box that appears to say, "Oh, you're trying to do a function. Let me help you," which is actually quite useful. Now it asks for a number, but I'm going to refer to the number that sits in cell C2 again. So that's what I'm doing. And then I put in a comma, and it highlights, oh, well, what format do we want? But so we can specify any sort of format or whatever, but I'm just going to put in a 0 for now to specify that I want it in like a numerical sort of format. I close off the brackets just to close off the function, and there we go. That's the number itself in text. Now you'll notice that it's actually aligned over to the left, and this is something that's pretty useful to know, is that in spreadsheets, generally speaking, numbers automatically align to the right, and text will automatically align to the left. Now you can't change it. That's a future video, but you can change it around. But it's a good thing to know if you're just playing about, before you start playing about with alignment and things like that. If it's aligned to the left, it's probably text. If it's aligned to the right, then it's probably numbers. So what we've actually got here is the number 5 and 0 in text. That's what's actually been returned here by converting it to a text type. Then surely I can't actually do mathematics on text, right? Let's do that again. Let's multiply that value in C4 this time with 3, but it's still returning a number, even though it's text. And that's because the system, the spreadsheet, is actually clever enough to know that even though it's text, the data type itself is actually text. But that it knows that the text itself is made up of just numbers. So if I try to perform some arithmetic on it, it converts it back into a number for me just for the purpose of the calculation. So we'll be coming on to why that's important again on future videos. But because some things will work with text and some things will not work with text. But that's sort of good to know, that if we have text, whether it's a number or not, if it's only just actually made up of numbers, like in this case, then you'll still be able to run arithmetic calculations on it. So that's the text function. That's how that works. There is actually another way to denote text as well by just putting an apostrophe in before you put numbers. So if I were to represent the number 50 again in text data type, I put in an apostrophe, type in the number 50, and there we go. Now the apostrophe disappears because that's literally just a function to say whatever comes after this apostrophe, this singular apostrophe, I want you to display as text. And that's where it's done that. It's returned the number 50, but it's aligned it over to the left. We know that it's text. And you might be sitting there thinking, well, okay, well, why would we want to do that? And the reality is that all over the world, there's actually lots of reasons why a numerically formatted data point might actually need to be displayed as text. And let's think about phone numbers. Let's just say that my phone number is 07777123456. If I was just to put that in as a phone number, let's just say that I'm creating a spreadsheet and I'm storing like contact details of people, and this is somebody's phone number. I hit enter, and it aligns over to the right, and it drops the preceding 0 because it doesn't realize that this is a phone number that I've actually typed in. It thinks that I've actually typed in a number. And that's what's going to be 7,777,123,456. That's actually what it thinks it's seeing here. But no, wait a minute, I want a phone number. So if I precede it with a 0, type in the same thing again. There we go. This time it's aligned over to the left-hand side. It's kept the preceding 0. The number itself is text, and that's a phone number. That's something that we can use. So that's pretty cool. So far, there's a couple of other reasons, like, you know, zip codes in America, and I believe actually zip codes in lots of countries of the world actually are 4 or 5 digit characters, and some of them have preceding zeros. So there's a couple of use cases, legitimate use cases out there where we might have to put a number actually as text. Anyway, let's come back onto dates. Now, I am going to do a full video when it comes to date functions because if you've been watching the short videos on Facebook and Instagram, but you'll see that we're actually using elements of dates in order to run some quite complex calculations. So go and check those out. If you haven't seen them, go and look me up, Data with Duke, on Facebook, Instagram. You'll also find me on LinkedIn as well if that's your thing. What I'm doing there is just a series of short videos where we're actually doing some very basic analytics. And as part of that, we've been looking at actually breaking down months into component parts. So above, what we did is that we took a text and we were able to run calculation on it. So if we have text of January, then surely we can probably actually just grab the month element of that and run calculations on that as well, right? So let's try that. We'll do month in C11. That's where the cell is. And I hit enter, but I'm getting an error. We actually get an error here. If I hover over this error, it actually gives me some really useful feedback. And it says that in the month function parameter 1, I'll be going through that in more detail later, but let's just say whatever we put into the brackets of that month function expects number values. But January is text, and it cannot be coerced to a number. We cannot change January to a number in any specific way unless we sort of tell it how to do that. So how do we play about with dates with text and moving back and forth between numbers and text? So we'll start off with a basic date, 1st of January 2025, good as any. Notice that when I type it in, it aligned right like other numbers, and that's because dates are actually just numbers, just have a different sort of format, a different display. So I'll be going into that in a second. So if I want to extract the month now of that date to say that actually C13 is what I'm looking for, and I hit enter, there we go, number 1. It's telling me that month 1 is what we're looking at. All right, fantastic. Month 1 being, of course, in most places, is going to be January. Great. We might be able to use this. But the number 1 isn't always actually useful without context. So maybe we actually want to take the month of it and then actually convert it into text, like we've done the number above. So again, there's a couple of different ways of doing this. I'm going to go through a few. So we're going to use this text function again. The number this time that I'm asking for is actually the date. I'm going to be, the text function says, well, what's the number? And I'm pointing out a date. And this is what he said, no, I don't get it. I don't get it, Duke. Dates are just numbers with a special format. So keep following, keep watching, and we'll see what we mean by that. So I've got the number, which is actually represented by a date, and then inside double quotes, I'm gonna say a format that I want the date, that number to actually come in. Now, again, I'll be doing a future video on date and time functions a little bit more detail, but let's just take it for now. If I was to type in 3 M's and then close off the brackets, what I'm actually asking for, MMM, is a short named month of that particular date. So what it's doing is that it's going to that date, 1st of January 2025, and it says, look at the month and return, look at the month of that date, and then return a short form word to represent that month. So January is shortened to Jan, just 3 letters. If I wanted the full, I could actually do the same thing again. So I can point it to the number, but in this case it's actually a date. And in my double quotes, this time I'll go MMMM. Now this isn't another snack coming for us. We're actually saying this time, using 4 M's, I want the long form version of the month in cell C13. So head down to there, and it's done the same thing, but this time it's saying January, not just Jan. So that's kind of useful. You can actually go into a lot of detail, and again, I'm sounding like a stuck record, but there is going to be a future video going into this in a lot more detail. But let's just say that I want to grab different elements of that date. So I could do the same thing. Let's go text. My number is going to be C13, which I've typed in this time rather than click on it. And then inside my